Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Former agent Christian Carino. Christian Carino. Eh?
Okay, let's get the chair. Okay, let's get the chair. All right. You want to continue with this witness then?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We'll now play Volume 2 of Mr. Carino's deposition, which is the questioning from counsel for Mr. Depp.
Okay, thank you.
You're aware that this litigation involves a dispute between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, correct?
Correct.
And you know both of those individuals, correct?
Correct.
Who did you meet first?
Amber.
When did you meet her?
I don't know exactly when, but probably within the first few years of being at CAA.
Okay. So can we, as an estimate, say 2005, 2006 time frame?
Sure. I don't actually know, but sure.
But it was pretty early on at your career at CAA.
Correct.
And describe for me the events of your meeting her.
She was represented theatrically at the time by an agent named Warren Zavala, who has since left represent her with him specifically in the commercial space.
And what do you mean represent her in the commercial space?
Help identify business opportunities for her with brands.
Okay. So not as an actor?
Correct.
And did you take on that representation?
I did.
And at some point in time, you did consider her a friend as, in addition to you two working together, is that right?
Yes.
And in that regard, did you and her do anything social?
Yes.
And can you describe for me generally what types of activities you two would do together as friends?
We would go to dinner, go to events together, just hang out at each other's residences.
And at some point in time, did you consider Mr. Depp a friend?
Yes.
And how did that relationship evolve? And I'm just talking about you and Mr. Depp becoming friends.
I spent a fair amount of time with both of them together, and at some point started to spend time with him on my own as well.
I see. And at some point in time, did Mr. Depp become a good a friend to you as Ms. Heard? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Let me re-ask that also. Did you consider, at some point in time, did you consider Mr. Depp a friend to the same degree you considered Ms. Heard a friend?
Yes.
And at some point, let me ask you, at some point in time, did you represent Mr. Depp professionally?
Yes.
And can you explain to me how it came to you representing Mr. Depp professionally?
Johnny asked me to represent him.
And when you began representing Mr. Depp, did you continue representing Ms. Heard?
Yes.
And do you recall who Mr. Depp's agent was prior to you?
He was represented at another talent agency, UTA.
Do you still work for Mr. Depp?
I do not.
Do you recall when you stopped working for Mr. Depp?
Within the past 2 years.
And can you describe the circumstances of you no longer working for Mr. Depp?
He left CAA to follow an agent who left CAA to become part of a founding group in a new management company.
And who is that person?
Jack Wiggum.
Was Mr. Wiggum ever affiliated with CAA?
Yes.
Okay. And say that when Jack Wiggum departed CAA, Johnny went with him?
Yes.
Okay. And when Mr. Depp left CAA, did you remain friends with him?
No.
Okay. Well, I should probably first ask, at some point in time, did your friendship with Mr. Depp end?
Yes.
And when was that?
I would say at the time he left CAA.
And did him leaving CAA have something to do with the end of the friendship?
I don't know.
Are you still friends with Miss Heard?
No.
And when did that friendship end?
Probably when the legal disputes started.
And what legal dispute are you referring to? This one?
I'm not sure which one was first, but one of the disputes between Johnny and Amber.
Okay. But your friendship with, you're not referring to their divorce, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you remain friends with both of them through their divorce. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Although you're no longer friends with Mr. Depp, do you have any animosity towards him?
I do not.
And same question with respect to Miss Heard. Although you're not friends with her any longer, do you have any animosity towards her?
I do not.
Do you recall when it is the last time you spoke with Miss Heard?
I do not.
Would it have been around the same time that your friendship ended with her?
I would assume so.
Exhibit 16.
No, Mr. Carino, you'll see at the bottom here, and tell me if you can see it. If you see at the bottom, it has a bait stamp number under the yellow tag, CC00070.
Yes.
Do you recognize this document? And take your time if you need to review it.
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand this to be a true and authentic copy of email exchange in which you were involved?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay. And you'll see it's dated January 11th, 2018, and the subject is WME. Do you know what is your understanding of what WME is?
William Morris Endeavor.
And what is that?
It's another talent agency.
Okay. And you've read this email from Ms. Hurd to you, correct?
Correct.
So at this point in time, was she a close friend of yours?
Yes.
And ultimately, did she leave CAA?
Yes.
And it was at this time?
Yes.
During the entire time you represented Ms. Hurd, did Mr. Depp ever interfere with your representation of Ms. Hurd?
No.
Did he ever ask you to do anything with respect to her career?
Not that I can recall.
Exhibit 17.
Now, Mr. Carino, this particular document was not produced by you. You'll see that at the bottom here. The bait stamp indicates ALH. That means it was produced by Ms. Hurd. And this appears to be a text exchange between you and her. It's about a page and a half. If you could take the time to read it, and then I will ask you questions about it.
I read it.
And you'll see at the top, Mr. Carino, that it's dated July 14th, 2016. Based on that date and based on reading this text exchange, at this point in time, were you close friends with both Mr. Depp and Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
And having read the text exchange, do you believe this to be a true and correct representation of the exchange,
Yes.
and to be authentic in that regard?
Yes.
Now, you start the text exchange by indicating JD just surfaced. What is the JD reference?
Johnny Depp.
And she says, I saw Laurel yesterday. Who is Laurel?
Laurel's a therapist.
Do you know her full name?
Laurel Anderson.
Did you independently know Laurel?
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with Laurel seeing either Ms. Hurd or Mr. Depp?
Yes.
And can you explain that to me, please?
I introduced them all.
And what was the purpose of you introducing her to them?
They needed help.
And can you explain to me in more detail what you mean by that?
I think it was at a time where they needed somebody to help mediate the difficulties they were having.
And what do you mean by difficulties?
The strains on their relationship.
And in that regard, did you have conversations with Ms. Hurd about the state of her relationship with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
I'm trying to determine for how long a period of time did Ms. Hurd have conversations with you about the state of her relationship with Mr. Depp? Can you give me a time frame?
I would say she talked to me about the state of their relationship from the beginning until the end.
The entire time you knew her? I'm sorry, the entire time you considered her a friend?
Yeah.
And how about Mr. Depp? Did you have conversations with him about the state of his relationship with Ms. Heard?
Yes.
And were those ongoing during the entire time you were friends with him?
Yes.
You say they both confided in you in that regard?
Yes.
So back to this text exchange. Where my cursor is, Ms. Heard says to you, yeah, she said that Johnny and I need to talk directly. Do you know who Ms. Heard's referring to there?
Laurel.
That was your understanding after reading this?
Yes.
And then you ask her, do you want to do something tomorrow? She says, yeah. She says, IDP, I do. You say, okay. And then you say, what is safe to do? Do you want to come to my place for dinner? What did you mean by what is safe to do?
It meant avoiding paparazzi.
Okay. And then she says, it's so fucked up. I just want to tell him that what they are telling him isn't true. What was your understanding of what she meant by that sentence?
I don't recall.
Mr. Bruno, while she's doing that, at the outset of this deposition, I asked you if you recall being deposed about a year ago in this case, and you said yes. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm going to show you now is the transcript, a portion of the transcript from that deposition. And who is Mr. Bruckheimer?
Jerry Bruckheimer is the producer of the Pirates franchise.
And who is Mr. Wiggum?
Jack Wiggum was an agent at CA who worked with Johnny.
Okay. And who is Mr. Lord?
Brian is one of the managing partners of CAA and also worked on Johnny Depp.
And what was your understanding of why the Pirate 6 job was not offered to Mr. Depp?
Leo, you're asking my opinion?
Yes.
Because of the accusations that Amber had made.
Oh,
And what I'm about to show you, Mr. Carino, is a article in the Washington Post authored by Ms. Heard. You're going to notice that the article will be presented sideways. So you'll have to tilt your head a bit to review it.
Exhibit 19.
Do you, first, Mr. Carino, why don't you take control and just scroll through the document? It's just a couple of pages.
Is this the top of the next page?
Yeah, when there's a jump like that, it's just at the top of the next page.
Okay.
Mr. Carino, have you seen this document before?
Yes.
Do you know who wrote this document?
Yes.
Who wrote this document?
Amber.
Amber Heard?
Yes.
And do you see there on this first page of the document, it actually indicates that it's written by Amber Heard on December 18th, 2018?
Yes.
And do you understand that this document was authored by Ms. Heard and published on December 18th, 2018?
Yes.
And do you, Carino, I'm showing you an email exchange in which you were involved. It's just this one page. I'll blow it up so you can review it. Take a second to review it, please.
Okay.
And let's start at the bottom of this. Well, do you see at the top that the email Ray line is entitled Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow won't return a new Pirates of the Caribbean movie?
Yes.
And this email exchange was on December 20th, 2018, correct?
Correct.
And do you recall that the article you just read published by Ms. Heard was published on December 18th, 2018, 2 days before this?
Yes.
Now, if you go to the bottom of this email, do you see there is this link to an article?
Yes.
And it says URL defense, it says movieweb.com.
Yes.
Mr. Carino, what I put up next to the email exchange that we've been discussing is an article dated December 20th, 2018. Okay. So this article is dated December 20th, 2018. The email sent to you by Robin Baum is that same day, December 20th, 2018, correct?
Yes.
Who is Ms. Baum?
Johnny's publicist.
Okay. And she's sending this article to you, is that right?
Yes.
And then in response, you say, were we told this officially from Disney? And she responds, Jack Wiggum responds, no. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Sure. So you testified just a few minutes ago that it was your opinion that Mr. Depp lost the Pirates 6 movie because of Ms. Heard's allegations. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Allegations of abuse, correct?
Yes.
And is this a demonstration of when Disney made that decision to not hire Mr. Depp for Pirates 6?
Yes.
Exhibit 22.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp physically abuse Ms. Heard?
No.
Did Ms. Heard ever tell you that she had been physically abused by Mr. Depp?
No.
Did Mr. Depp ever tell you that he had physically abused Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever witness any injuries on Ms. Heard that would indicate that she was physically abused? Of the divorce papers and the TRO, and Ms. Heard states to you, "I'll call you right back. Sorry." And you say, "Okay." She says, "Is it too late to call?" And you say, "Just finishing dinner. We'll call you as soon as we walk out within 20. And she says, "Please tell him I love him." Is that an accurate reading of the text exchange so far?
Yes.
Do you know if at this time, based on your relationship with Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp, whether Ms. Heard wanted to reconcile with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
It's your understanding that she did?
Yes.
Did Ms. Heard, based on your personal friendship with Ms. Heard, close personal friendship with Ms. Heard, would you say that she confided in you?
Yes.
And what about Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Mr. Carino, at some point in time, after Ms. Heard filed those divorce papers in May of 2016, did she make any requests of you to intervene in the relationship between her and Mr. Depp?
What do you mean by intervene?
Let's start with assist in communications between the two. Walk me through.
At some point around that time, she wanted me to arrange for them to get together in person.
And what did you do after that was requested of you by Ms. Heard?
I talked to Johnny about it.
What happened after that?
He was reluctant at first and then agreed.
And then what happened after that?
I mean, it's a long time ago, but I remember there was a fair amount of discussion about the TRO and how we would deal with that because nobody wanted Johnny accused of violating the TRO as an outcome of that meeting. And I don't remember exactly what we did, but Amber at some point warranted that she would never accuse him of violating the TRO to do the meeting, and I set the meeting up.
So just so I understand, you set the meeting up at the request of Ms. Heard?
Objection.
Yes.
And as part of you setting up, she told you that it didn't matter. I'm trying to understand what was the issue with respect to the TRO?
My understanding of the restraining order, at least at the time, was that he couldn't go within a certain distance of her.
Okay. And what was her suggestion with respect to that issue in connection with her wanting to meet with him?
She promised me and told me to relay to him that she would never accuse him of violating the restraining order as a result of agreeing to meet her. And I believe, but I don't recall exactly, there were conversations with both sides legally, I believe at the time, to make it transparent to everybody that this was happening.
Okay. And then what happened next?
I arranged the meeting. Johnny was in San Francisco on tour, and I arranged to borrow a friend's house, and Amber and I flew to San Francisco and drove to the house, and Johnny showed up a few hours later.
And did the two of them meet
Yes.
in the same room?
They sat outside,
Okay. How close to each other were they?
inches away from each other.
And how long were they out there talking? For how long were they out there talking?
Several hours.
Did you, although you weren't out there, were you in a position where you could see them through a window or otherwise?
Yes.
At some point in time, the conversation ended, correct?
Correct.
And what happened after that?
I received a call or a text from Steve, whose house it was, and he notified me that he would be coming back to the house within the next hour or so. And I told Johnny and Amber, and we decided to rent a hotel room in San Francisco so that they could continue to talk.
And did that in fact happen?
Objection.
And at some point in time, you left that house, correct, to go to San Francisco?
Yes.
And was it the three of you?
No. Johnny had security with him, and we talked about the fact that it wouldn't be a good idea for them to be seen together. So Johnny left with his security in his car, and I believe Amber and I took an Uber.
And what happened after that?
We all met at the hotel room.
And do you know what happened after that?
They started arguing.
And do you recall any details of the argument?
No.
And for how long was this argument had in a hotel room?
Yes.
Did you witness the entire discussion, or did you leave at some point?
I left the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning.
And Mr. Carino, I'm showing you emails that were produced by you. First, the bottom of the first page, it starts at the bottom of the first page. The string above it was redacted. And you'll see that it starts on August 7th, 2017. Do you see that?
August 7th, 2017, yes.
Having read it, can you determine who you're speaking with in this text exchange?
Amber?
Oh, hang on. Let me ask you this. Do you know whether or not Ms. Heard ever had a relationship with Mr. Elon Musk?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So again, it's dated August of 2017. And she says, dealing with breakup, I hate when things go public. See, I'm so sad.
Boom. The comment goes
Having
wild.
reviewed the
Boom.
document again, do you have an understanding of what she's referencing
Elon
there?
Musk suck.
I believe she's referring to breaking up with Elon.
You say it seems like a press release. You weren't in love with him, and you told me 1,000 times you were just filling space. What are you saying there?
I'm saying, why would you be sad if you weren't in love with him to begin with?
And by him, you're referring to who?
Elon.
Okay. And at this point in time, were you still close friends with Ms. Heard?
Looks like that's the case at that time, yes.
And did she still, at this point in time, did she confide in you about her relationships?
Yes.
Okay. And you respond, she responds, I know, but I wanted time to grieve and recover in my own time. Is she still referring to Mr. Musk there? Do you know? Your understanding.
I don't know whether she's referring to Johnny or to Elon in that line.
Okay. In this point in time, do you know what her feelings were? What was your understanding? At this point in time, what was your understanding based on your experience with her? What was your understanding of her relationship with Mr. Depp?
I don't believe there was a relationship at that point.
And you say, and you got that. No, she says, I hate that yet again a man lets me fall on the spikes by myself. You ask, how so? She says, oops. Meaning they are mad at me for leaving them and put things like this out there. You say, sorry. She says like that. You say, you could avoid all this if you stopped dating uber famous people. You can be with a big man who isn't famous. What were you relating to her there?
I believe what I was saying was famous.
Sure. You indicated that she moved on immediately after Johnny Depp to date Elon Musk. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Do you have an understanding one way or another whether Ms. Heard and Mr. Musk were in fact dating at the time of the San Francisco reconciliation that she asked you to set up?
I don't know whether they were dating, but they had definitely spent time together.
Do you know how long after the San Francisco attempted reconciliation you gained the understanding that Elon Musk and Ms. Heard were in fact dating?
I don't know exactly how long, but not long after.
Do you know who or what was your understanding of who she was referring to when she was said, here, I love him?
Johnny.
Based on this exchange, did you have an understanding at this time whether Ms. Heard wanted to reconcile with Mr. Depp?
I believe she did.
And at this point in time, she was still a close personal friend of yours, correct?
Yes.
And at this point in time, did she consider you a confidant in your understanding?
I think, yes.
Okay, just to authenticate this document again, Mr. Carino, do you see that it's referenced at the bottom, date stamp CC, indicating that you produced this document?
Yes.
And having read this, do you perceive this as a true and fair copy of a text exchange between you and Ms. Heard?
Yes.
Okay. And I will, and you see at the very top here, it's dated August 16th, 2017.
Yes.
And Ms. Heard states to you, I've written so many notes. Can you give him one? I don't know how or where to start. There's no way to begin. And all I have to say, but I have so many. Finally, I am single, clear in my heart and mind. I just want him to know I loved him and that I am sorry. Do you have an understanding of who Ms. Heard is referring to here?
Yes.
And who is Ms. Heard referring to in this text?
Johnny.
And what is she asking you to do here?
She was asking me to deliver a letter that she was writing to him.
Oh. And does she also want you to, and it says, and that I am sorry. What was your understanding of what she was asking you to do there, if anything?
I believe that was all in reference to getting him a handwritten letter that she was writing or trying to write.
Was it your understanding at the time of this text exchange, August 24, 2017, that Ms. Amber was attempting to reconcile with Mr. Depp?
I believe so.
Okay. And I know this may sound repetitive, but on August 20, at the time of this text, on August 24th, 2017, you and her were still close personal friends, correct?
I believe so.
There's not much here at all, Mr. Carino, but I did want to confirm that this was a document produced by you, correct, based on the bait stamp on the bottom?
Yes.
And do you see it's dated September 27th, 2017?
September 23rd.
Oh, you're right. My apologies. It's dated September 23rd, 2017. And it's a text to you that says, God, I miss him. Do you have an understanding of what, who Ms. Hurd is referring to there?
Yes.
And who's that?
Johnny.
And do you see at the bottom, the date of the text is June 9th, 2018?
Yes.
Okay. And it says, I text him happy birthday. Do you know who sent that and who the him is?
I assume this is from Amber and she's talking about Johnny.
You've had a chance to review the whole document. Mr. Perino, what does this appear to be?
It appears to be the communications around the time that we set up the meeting in San Francisco.
And who are these communications between?
Me and Johnny.
Okay. And this first bubble, can you tell if the blue is you or Mr. Depp?
I think the blue is me.
Sure. Earlier in your deposition, at the very outset, I was asking you about your representation of individuals at CAA. You indicated that you represent individuals that are both actors and musicians. Would you consider Mr. Depp in that pool?
Yes.
And you represented, or CAA represented him both in connection with his acting endeavors and his involvement with vampires?
Yes.
And was Mr. Depp's participation in Hollywood Vampires lucrative?
No.
Do you know whether or not it was something Mr. Depp enjoyed?
Yes.
Plaintiff calls Laura Wasser by deposition, Your Honor. Wasser. Thank you.
Will you please state your name and address for the record?
Laura Allison Wasser, Wasser, Cooperman and Mandels, Suite 800, 2049 Century Park East, Los Angeles, California, 90049.
Thank you. What is your occupation?
I'm an attorney at law.
And how long have you been an attorney?
26 years.
You represented Mr. Depp in the divorce against Amber Heard, is that correct?
Yes.
And you are here under subpoena?
Yes.
Your practice has primarily been focused on domestic relations in California, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you a member of any bar other than California?
No.
During the period 2012 to 2016, was California a no-fault state with respect to divorce?
The answer is that California was a no-fault state during that period.
During the period 2012 to 2016, was California a community property state with respect to the division of assets in a divorce?
Yes.
And what does that mean to you?
California is a community property state, and what that means to me is that assets which were earned or created during the course of the marriage, absent some other theory of law applied, be divided equally.
And what do you mean by absent some theory or law applied?
I'm sorry, Elaine, what was the question? Oh, a theory of law. When I say a theory of law, I mean if there's a premarital agreement, if there's some other, it's not completely blanket community property. There may be